Over to you, Mr.
Okay, good morning. So I've been given time of 20 minutes. From 45 minutes, they have reduced to 20 minutes. So that's fine. So I am the barrier between me and lunch. So what I will do, I'll quickly run through the whole process of pre-audit preparations. I'll not take much more time. I think already Ashish spoke about why the IAS 14489 has come up and what is the principles about that. That's a great part. Now going to the pre-audit, why do you think pre-audit preparation is required? An idea? So let's take a simple example. Let's take an example of any sport. So let's say there's a sports, our favorite sport is cricket. Obviously, everyone's sports is cricket is a favorite. Let's say the team is selected. Selector selects the team, 16 people or 15 people squad. Can they go and start playing the match on the day one? Why? All they are expert. They know they're a bowling team. There's a cricket batsman. There's a wicket keeper. Everyone is there. So let them go directly and play the international game. Sorry. Do you think practice is required? Why? Why practice? Why practice? They have been practicing for so long. That's the reason they got selected in the international game. So why once again practice is required within those 16 people or 15 people? Coordination, great. Agree. Understand each and others. Okay, great. So great. So similarly in the audit preparation also within your team, you have been working in that industry for such a long time. You know in and out of that things, but still, before you go and face the third party audit, you need to do a preparation. Because preparation is the main key factor to face any new audit. Because in that audit, what exactly type of questions going on, Ashish covered about that in detail. So we'll go into that part. So to understand that what are the aspects which is there, we need to understand this pre-audit preparation is very crucial. So let's understand that few aspects. I just jotted down few of the things which Ashish has some 580 question he spoke about that questionnaires. We'll not go into so much 515 questions. We'll talk about the main key aspects. So there are some aspects like management policies which he already spoke about and legal discussion. So let's go one by one. Let me take through the first management policies. I'm sure every company has a policy. Every company has an EHS policy. But what Ashish was talking about, are we reviewing it at regular frequency? That's the key. There is a framework which says you should review the policy by at least 2 years once. Go back and check whether our existing operation is in line with the policy or not. In case if the policy requires any reframe or anything addition is to be done, that's the time frame where you can go back and check and review it. Because it may happen that in the audit your core operation may have got changed. Your core operation may have got changed and the policy is not reflecting that. So that's the reason the policy has to be reviewed at a regular frequency. And there should be the policy should be evidence should be there. That means there is a management review should take place at a regular interval. There should be documentation evidence should be available so that you can prove that the policy is in line and the policy is being followed on a regular basis. Let's talk about the policy. The second important factor which comes up is the legal framework. You need to understand what are the different types of legal applicabilities available for your industries, because I'm sure many of you are from pharma, many of you may be from metal industries or engineering industries. So the same rule will not be applicable to everyone. It will differ. So you need to go and refer what rules and regulations are affecting me. Yes, Factory Acts is one thing, but there are many other rules also there. Whether the PSO applicable to you based on the particular type of chemical you are using, whether gas cylinder you are using, it depends upon the type of industry you are using. So you need to go back and see what type of legal framework you have and review the legal framework at a regular frequency. And you should ensure that the legal framework is been audited by internally, so that you know what are the gaps you have. You should yourself fully identify what are the gaps in my existing, so that you can put a corrective action towards that rather the auditor comes and finds out that. So you should know where are the lagging indicators and you can put out controls over that. That's the requirement which is talking about the legal and statutory compliances. So if you go into the questionnaires, what Ashish was showing in the annexure 2.1 or 2.3, it is talking about all those detailed questionnaires. I'm giving a very bird's overview here. I'm sure the hazard identification risk assessment is one of the key important part of your ISO certification, ISO 45000. So hazard identification is will not restrict only to the HERA. You can also go into the deep dive of an HAZOP or an HERACU based upon the type of industry you are using. You should also know how do you eliminate this hazard. Well, you should identify the hazard and you should put a control over that. First to know what is the the hazard which is we have identified, what type of its severity is there, whether the severity is very high or the severity is low. So based upon that, you will put a strategy of eliminating, substituting engineering control and administration control PP. That's the traditional way of doing it. But you can also go ahead and you can put in a LOPA into this, layers of protection available. I'll not go into the LOPA part in detail, but you can put a LOPA for each of your hazard identified. Once you put a layers of protection, you will come to know, okay, what are the reasons why that incident will not take place, and why are the controls which are available with you, and each control you will come to know what are the gaps in each controls. So I'm sure the LOPA may be in a different topic, somebody understands that. It talks about layers of protections, it talks about what are the gaps available in each control and how can we fix these gaps. So that will help you to identify the hazard and put control over that. And once you are done a HERA, it is not a once you are done the HERA, it is not done and completed. It has to be reviewed at a regular frequency because the process is going to get changed. As and when the process is getting changed, you have to review it LOPA also. I'm sure you have a safe operating procedure for all the operations. You should not restrict only the routine operations, you should also consider the non-routine operations. For the routine and non-routine operations, you should have an SOP available, and based upon that SOP, the SOP what it says should be the walk the talk. So what SOP says it should be followed, and what you are following should be written in the SOP. It should be in line with each other. I'm sure training awareness and preparedness and competency is one of the key important. You should know what are the training part you have to do for your each employee. So there should be an identification of training needs. The same training cannot be given to each and every employee. You have to identify what type of the competency you need to develop for each. If you're talking to a contractor, then you need a separate level of competency. So separate level of training needs to be identified. The same will not be applicable for the worker or the employee who is in the shop floor. So you have to identify the training needs, and based upon the training needs, your module should be designed in such a fashion that the training is conducted. And there should be a competency evaluation. Let me take a simple example. I'll club this with the permit to work system. Maybe the permit to work system. In the permit to work system, we know that okay, different level of permits we have, whether it's general permit or a hot work permit or a working ahead permit. Can everyone give all type of permits, or you have any criteria to give any each type of permits? How do you define your organizations? I'm sure. Anyone wants to share that? Is all person can issue all type of permits, or there is some restrictions? Why that restrictions? What's the need of that restrictions? What is the meaning of eligibility? What do you mean? You are saying, okay, this guy can do only this job, or this permit he can issue, so these guys can do other. Why that differentiation? Okay. Training is one part. Training is a process in which you are developing their competency. There is something called as a responsibilities. Okay. You are also defining, okay, this guy is responsible to do this type of jobs. So you know the hierarchy of understanding the hazard identification. Let's say if I'm doing a confined space entry, I will not give any confined space entry to any operator level to do any confined space entry permit. I will ask the manager of the department or the site in charge of the department to do confined space because the hazard involved is very high. So, to ensure that the person understands that hazard, I need to identify the competency what is required to give a confined space permit requirement. So, that type of training you will do it. Definitely, you have a system in your process. So, you will be giving that type of particular training, very job specific training that should be identified as a part of your TNI, the training needs what I was talking about. Okay. Incident investigation reporting. I'm sure every incident. Whenever we say incident investigation reporting, I'm not talking about the lag indicators. We are talking also about the lead indicators. Can you name some lead indicators? Unsafe act. Is unsafe act as a lead indicator or lag indicator? What do you mean by lead and lag indicator? Unsafe act. Sir said unsafe act. What do you mean by unsafe act? Sorry, unsafe act is a? Okay. Okay. Lead is a leading indicator. Okay. Anyone has a difference of opinion from sir? Sorry, sir. System cause. Okay. Now let's stick to the near miss and unsafe act. As of now, we'll come to the system cause. Sir, system near miss and whatever near miss and unsafe act is a lead indicator. Is everyone agreeing with that, or somebody has a different opinion? So near miss is a lead indicator then? Or unsafe act is a near indicator? Lead indicator?
Here this is leading indicator because it can lead to a bigger incident.
Okay. But it has happened.
No, it happened in some other institute, not in your organization. So you
Okay.
learn from that.
That is a different topic. That's a different topic. Absolutely. What you spoke about is a different topic. You have learned something from other place. What we are trying to do here is we are learning from the experience. The learning from experience is a lead indicator. But near miss is not a lead indicator, it's a lag indicator because that has happened in your premises. Unsafe act. I have done an unsafe act. It's not a lead indicator, it's a lag indicator. So what's lead indicator then?
Training awareness.
Absolutely. The number of training you are conducting, the number of awareness sessions you are doing, the number of proactive measures you are doing it. That's come to as a lead indicator.
Hands-on, they have the experience.
Correct. So that's the topic because you are proactively doing it something before even that has happened. You are recognizing it as there is a potential hazard available, and to address that potential hazard, the actions you are doing it, that comes as a lead indicator. Generally in the industry, what happens, we focus more on the lag indicator rather than the lead indicator. Because from factory inspector point of view, we need to report only the lag indicators. So if any incident has happened greater than 48 hours, we need to report factory inspector. So our whole focus is on the lag indicator, but we should shift from the lag to the lead indicator. That's also a requirement of IS 14489 because that's where you are going to build the competency of the organization. The culture is going to get changed. So that's talking about incident investigation. When we do that incident investigation, it's just not okay, something has happened, there's a near miss. Okay, what is that next?
So the audit is also a lead indicator, right?
Audit.
Observations of an audit could be a lead indicator.
Observation from an audit, the audit has already found you something and you are going to do an action towards that.
Because external party, third-party audit comes, so they have seen the things in a different use case.
I slightly differ here. Maybe we can correct outside, but that is something you have already found. Let's say you are doing a pre-audit preparation. This pre-audit preparation, what I am talking about, that is a lead indicator because you are proactively going and thinking, okay, somebody is going to come here to my audit and going to do an audit, and he may find this. Before that, I am myself finding it and putting an action over that. That is a lead indicator. Rather, somebody is coming and telling me that this is wrong. So there's a difference of saying how you see that. In an incident investigation, what we do is that we also recommend to do a detailed investigation. I'm sure this is not a session, but we need to do a 5 analysis or a root cause analysis. We have the number of method available. It can be a taproot or it can be a taproot is one of the method, fire fishbone or so on. There are a number of methods to do an incident investigation, and each incident we recommend that any incident that has happened should be investigated within 15 days. This is a standard practice. So because so that if you can investigate in 15 days, then you can put the corrective action and preventive action later based upon your budget and other things, your area of improvement. The corrective action and preventive action come over there. Then there should be trend analysis, and something called as an important factor more than trend is something called life. The life is something of learning from experience. What you are talking about learning, the learning is not that we need to learn from the external industry. Within your premises, you have number of units. The learning from one unit has to pass to the next unit. So that's very important. You can prepare a one-page summary of something called as life, and the life can be transferred. So then what is going to happen is that then okay, you can learn from that. Okay, this happened in the next unit. Can this happen in my unit also? Yes, there's a probability that it can happen in my unit. The same learning and corrective action, preventive action, what has been put in the other unit should be implemented here. That's something we talk about the life. Am I within time? Okay, great. Please let me know in case if I am exceeding.
Another 15 minutes.
15 minutes. The timekeeper is here, so you can give me the hands on. Okay, we talk about, I'm sure every industry we talk about. Before morning, the site manager was talking about OHC, Occupational Health Center. We have a doctor, he said. That's great. So we all focus mainly on the health part. But now health is very great, it has to be there. No doubt about that. But we need to move beyond that and go into something called a hygiene. What's hygiene? Sorry?
How clean our premises.
How clean our premises? Great. One aspect of seeing it. Anyone has a different, any other thought? Hygiene. When they say hygiene, and let me put on occupational hygiene or industrial hygiene. Okay.
It's avoiding anything which you can avoid the future things and then making it as a way of.
Okay. Okay. Great. Industrial hygiene. You are coming to that. Exposure. Now, what we are talking about here? Now we are talking about how can a person will get exposed? Because you are handling chemicals. Okay, each chemicals the person is getting exposed. We'll come directly whenever we talk about exposure. Our ultimate answer comes to PPE. But we saw what is the PPE is the but PPE is the last layer of defense. PPE is not the first layer of defense. What's the first layer of defense?
Elimination.
Can we eliminate that exposure? That's the thinking process should come. Okay, possible. How do we eliminate that exposure? By putting some engineering controls, you can have some exhaust or a ventilation and so on. Now, before we jump into engineering control, first we need to understand when I'm inhaling those chemicals or my person is getting exposed to that chemical, what type of health hazard is having. So each chemical has something called as an OEB. I will not go into too much detail, technical. There is something called as an occupational exposure band. There is an occupational exposure limit, so you cannot be exposed to any chemical at a long duration. There is something called as STEL. There is something called as the 8 hours exposure time weighted average. You should know exactly based upon then accordingly you should put a control whether my chemical falls under OEB1 or OEB2 or OEB3 or 4 or 5. If the 5 is the highest level of danger which is exposing to my worker, then the control should be more focusing on engineering control and rather than the PPEs. If it is an OEB1, then I can focus. I may not be putting any engineering control. I can go on reliable on the PPE because the exposure is less. If the chemical exposure is very high, if it's a OEB4 or OEB5, my control should be more robust control should come. So that's what talks about health surveillance and occupational hygiene. I'm sure the remaining things of annual medical examination and often medical examination pre-employment, that's the basic things in all industry we follow it. But we need to move away from that and we need to go into an industrial hygiene part. Okay, when I say contractor safety management, I'm sure every company has any contractors. Everywhere contractors works. And what do you think? Do you think that's is there a strongest area or do you think there's one of the weakest link? Contractor management is a weakest link or do you think it's in a good control? Why do you think it's the weakest link? Why do you say my contractor is there? But all the company employs contractors. There will be no company which will be having no contractors. I'm sure. More than employees, the contractors will be more. And we all say that the contractor is the weakest link. Why? They keep on changing. They are not the regular employee. The attrition is very high. And the people the person who turns on today, tomorrow he may not be there. Somebody else will be there. That's the problem with the contractor. So how do you put a control over that? And we know that in case, let's say there is a touch, nothing should happen. If there's an incident with the contractor, do I need to report a factory inspector to authority? The same level of, if it happens to the employee, the same level is applicable to the contractor also. So I need to report to the factory inspector, to the authority. And we know that that's the weakest link. So how do we put a control there? That's a key area of discussion there. Any idea? Any good practices you are doing? Training, again when we talk about the training, awareness, all those are the again weakest layer. Training, I'm sure you are sitting here for next 6 hours or 8 hours in the morning, but by end of the day you will hardly remember only 5% of that. So if the situation is that with us, what about the situation with the contractor?
Maybe the exposure same members talking about the same thing. You increase that awareness and the use.
I agree. Awareness and training is a key important thing. But there is something called as we should put in some 6-step process on contractor management. The process should start from selection of the contractors. You can't walk away. Anyone can walk away inside your organization and start doing working. There should be a process to evaluate which contractor you should hire and which contractor you should not hire. Once you evaluate, then then you can say, okay, these are the few contractors. Only these contractors can do high hazard activity. These contractors should do any low hazard activity or so on. Once you segregate that, then you can say, I understand what is the training, the effectiveness required for those type of contractors. Then there is a pre-question. Similarly there is a qualification of the contractors. There is an auditing of the contractors. There is the onboarding of the contractors. There is a periodic evaluation should take place of the contractor. That's a continuous process. Then only you can go and you can get a good result in contractor management. And I'm sure that you should give something called as a safety kiosk is there. One of the again some software is there. I'm sure many vendors are there. They can give it's like a card. It will tell you, okay, Mr. Prasad is eligible to do these are the activities based upon the type of training you are given to him. So that becomes a gate pass or I can't say a visitor or like a passport. It's a passport for that person to do this type of activity. Whenever you give the permit, that time you should check, okay, Mr. Prasad is doing this activity, he is eligible to do this activity. So when you give a permit to work system, that time you should check that passport, okay, he is eligible to do the hot work or he is eligible to do the working at night. So that gives a confidence for you to engage that contractor for doing that activity. It's a big subject. I think permit to work system we talked about. It's about the qualification and understanding what type of contract, what type of permit has to be given. And we spoke about authorization of the permit, and we know if there is any authorization, we can give which type of permit. That authorization should be there, and the linking should be always there in terms of each permit. One permit to another permit should be linking should be there, so that if you are going to a confined space entry, then they should be linked with the ensuring that the lockout tagout has taken place and so on. Okay, we talked about. I'll talk about the equipment safety. I think that's one of the key area. If you are using any machineries and so on, all these machinery should be guarded and they should be guard available, and making sure that the interlocks are working. It should generally it becomes a painful that people remove the guard and they start operating it. You should make sure that the interlock should be always healthy. And you should, otherwise, there's a hazard of electrical hazard is there, so you can go and touch that equipment and it can cause an injury and so on. And I'm sure I think we are not handling much of dust. In case if you are using dust or if you are using powder safety, in case if you are handling powder chemicals, then make sure that the housekeeping has been done absolutely good. There are a number of videos available on dust explosions. So even maida or atta that can also explode. So that is such a sugar can explode. So if you're handling such type of fine dust, the dust should be cleaned at regular frequency. Otherwise, there can be a primary explosion followed by a secondary explosion can take place. So the housekeeping becomes a very priority in case of a handling of a dust. We spoke about monitoring and measurement, especially we talked about the KPI, what I was talking about the lead indicator and lag indicator. So the focus should be always on the lead indicator rather than lag indicator. Lag indicator is something that is going to happen and is going to tell you. But lead indicator, if the management focuses on the lead indicator, then you will put a system around that, then the process will be put over there so that the appearance, the lead lag indicator is not going to happen. So that's the key demand of today's that the shift should be from the lag to the lead indicators. One thing, the law says that it should be at least once in a year. So once the year in which you are going to do an internal audit, that year the external audit is not required. The remaining year, then the other year can be an external audit, and that year the internal audit is not required as far as law. But you can always continue to do an internal audit every year, so that gives a feed to you, so that you can put into the systems, you can put a control over this, so that in the external audit you will not have any major findings. That's the advantage of internal audit. Okay, so we did so many jargon of we understood all those aspects. So what's next? So should we review it at a regular frequency? Is there any chance that or in your board meeting or you're not in a board meeting, the quarterly meeting, whether the performance of the KPI has been measured and reviewed? We know that these are the KPIs we have fixed it. Whether we are monitoring it, is it been reviewed with the top management? The top management should review this. They are talking about okay, how are we performing in our matrices? Whichever matrix or the KPI we have set in the beginning of the year, where are we on that? We generally talk about the KPI for the perform of the sales target or the production target and so on. But are we reviewing the KPI of EHS or HSE? So that's where the key important thing is there. So you need to, as key people, you should go and encourage that within organization. The KPI should be reviewed at a regular frequency. So they should talk about okay, what is the KPI we have set? Let's take one KPI per person reporting a near miss or an unsafe condition. So we should encourage everyone to go and report at least one near miss per month. So every employee should be encouraged. Okay, go and report near miss. Identify something. So if that can be a KPI, then you can measure that. So if you start identifying, let's say an organization has 150 people, if you identify 150 near misses or unsafe factor, unsafe condition, your bottom of the pyramid is going to be very big. So you are going to address all the unsafe factor, unsafe condition, and you can put a good control over that, so that your top of the pyramid is not going to get achieved. So that the fatality or the reporting incident or lost time injury will be reduced drastically as the base is going to increase. So that's the helping from the management review point of view. I think we spoke about the documentation part also. I think Ashish touched about some software. There are a number of softwares available in the market which can help you in achieving this. So, okay, with this, the concluding slide is that we have a checklist available already in the IS 14489. It talks about 500 line items. On each topic, we have a couple of 10 to 15 questions available. So,